Welcome back to Good Morning La La Land. We are here with Dr. Andrea Humphrey in the house. She is an author of Transformed for Purpose. I think this is an incredibly important topic so many people are going through. How are you doing, gorgeous?
I'm doing absolutely excellent. How could I not be doing well, right?
That's how we feel.
Such incredible, beautiful people.
That's how we feel having you here.
Thank you for being with us today.
We loved how at the beginning you said in the morning you go in and you remember who you are before you go out to the world. Because the world can tell you to be whatever, and it's not the truth.
Absolutely define you if you don't define yourself. I like what you guys said earlier. You were talking about becoming and changing. And one of the things that happens, I think, is we wake up, and if we don't know who we are, then everything will pull and tug and shape. And you'll get to the end of your day, and you're like, what did I accomplish that I intended to accomplish? And who was I? Who was I? Because sometimes we get lured into being people that we don't intend to be.
So who at this point do you feel most committed to being? Who are you?
It's kind of interesting. Thank you.
I know one thing, she's more than just his wife.
That is absolutely true.
Touche.
I'm torn between a dream awakener or a transformation specialist. I'm toying with those two ideas. One of the things that happened is I started looking at my life, talking with a coach, and I owned a beauty shop. I like people to come in one way and go out another. I was a professor at Northridge for 13 years. I like students to come in without knowledge and to leave with knowledge. I worked at the Walt Disney Company for 20 years, managing and directing finances for all of Tokyo theme parks. And we would see models, 1 to 100 models. And then one day, 10 years later, we'd be in the park, and we are those people. So I started realizing I really like transformation. I like seeing things go from one thing to another and become better. And so I'm coaching, I'm doing executive development, and helping people spiritually, financially, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually be the best themselves they can be.
Yes, yes,
Was there a moment or a person in your life that truly helped you transform?
God. Really, just God.
The best coach there is.
The best.
He's ultimately the only one, really.
The only one.
He knew what he designed you to be, right? I think we were all created with purpose. And so trying to figure out what was I here to do? What was I put on earth to do? Because I think we all have an individual calling and a blueprint that only you can do for your life, only you can do for your life, and only you can do for yours. And I'll meet people that you may never meet, and you'll meet people I may never meet. So if I'm not my authentic self that he created me to be, then I'm not fulfilling the purpose for which I'm on the earth.
Oh, absolutely. How did you discover that? Through God. How did you discover that purpose and that destiny? Was it prayer? Was it meditation? Was it thinking, talking to people?
How about all of that and then trial and error?
Yeah.
Can we add that to the list?
Yeah.
Of starting and stopping and starting and then figuring out, that's not me. That's not me.
But I think that's such an important point in the conversation, is because so many people then get discouraged and they think, I've failed at my purpose.
No. How many guys, this is the first job and the only job you've ever had?
Yeah, this is the only one.
You guys were talking about careers and shifting and change, and you said change is not as difficult. We do change all the time. We change jobs, we change careers. Circumstances force us to change. And we may not want to do the change in that moment, but things push us in a direction, and we look up and we have to make a shift. And it's funny how when we're forced to do something, that it becomes a lot easier, right? Think about when someone gets sick. And they've been saying, I'm going to change my eating habits for years. But then somebody gives them a diagnosis, and all of a sudden greens and cabbage and green beans look pretty doggone good, right?
It's all a blessing.
It's such a good point. My brother loves horror movies, so he'd always make me watch like the Saw movies, and I never really wanted to get into any of that. But the one thing I did take away from those movies is when there's a gun to your head, it's incredible how quick and how easy decisions become.
It is the truth.
Yeah.
The truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, that shift of knowing that everything's working for you.
Yes.
Everything's working. I think that's like, when you can get there, life gets so easy.
It really does.
But usually it comes with some hard times. And further than that, what was your kind of hardest thing going through your awakening around all this?
Well, I started off doing finance and teaching and helping, in the normal realm of academics and life. And then this is going to sound really, really weird, but my husband and I started a church. And then I had the worst days that I've ever had. It would seem like in doing, helping people, that those would then begin the best days. But the expectations of people for you to be perfect, the expectations for you to be whatever it is that they wanted you to be, was a really, really heavy, heavy burden on me. And it came to a point where I was working. I was teaching at the university. I have 2 teenage daughters at this time, but when we started, they were young. I was working at Disney. I owned the beauty shop, and everywhere things were pulling, and I realized I'm gonna have an emotional breakdown here if something doesn't shift because the weight of it is too much. And so I had to shift into redefining what it is that I wanted to be and what was important, and prioritizing that for myself and not letting the requests of everybody else define my priorities.
So important.
That part of the catalyst for this book?
The catalyst for that book, More Than Just His Wife, It's Time to Come Out of the Shadows, was going around to different conferences, particularly where they were men-oriented, and meeting a woman and saying, "Hi, I'm Andrea Humphrey. What's your name?" "Oh, I'm the pastor's wife." "What's your name?"
I'm gonna kill somebody. I got a pet peeve with that, right?
Yeah. You know, the man who's putting on the conference, I'm his wife. "Baby, what's your government name? What did your mother put on your birth certificate?" And I went away and I was talking to my husband, complaining. I'm like, women don't know who they are. They're submerged underneath the personality and the charisma of these men, whether it's athletes, politicians, any man that has presence. The woman has a tendency to slide into the shadow. And let me tell you, in the shadows is darkness, depression, despondency, broken dreams. And so I was telling my husband, somebody needs to do something about it. And he said, yeah, why don't you?
Why can't that somebody be you?
And so I started writing. And then oddly enough, I wrote from a perspective of somebody looking outward into other people's lives and the fallout of living in the shadows. Without really understanding what that felt like. Because my husband is amazing at giving me a platform to jump off of. But life took a turn. I lost 25 people in 24 months.
Oh my God.
Some of those were my roommates' parents, which we hung out at their house. So I knew them, my grandmother, my spiritual mom, my husband's mom, my best friend, all within from 2012 of September to 2014 September, 25 deaths. And it broke me. And I found myself depressed and down and going, is this my life? And in that place, I realized what it's like to live in the shadow of darkness. Anytime something breaks the plane of light shining on your life, it creates a shadow. And so those things had broken the plane of light shining on my life. And I finally understood what it was like to be in those dark spaces. And I wrote after coming out of that from a different space. I didn't write from, you need to come out of the shadows because the light is really good. I wrote from a place of understanding what it's like to be down and to be depressed and to feel broken.
So important.
And come into transformation.
You know, the purpose thing, I have a formula. I use it as basically your triumphs, whatever the hardest thing you've gone through, plus your passion and skill set. And I truly believe that we wouldn't take that on. If we choose to be leaders, we choose to be whatever, and we've got to go through that to have the understanding, that experience, that compassion, and everything else. So important. But I'm curious to know also, you're talking about how you're a minister, essentially. And it's interesting because the stats show it's actually one of the hardest careers there is because of that expectation of being perfect. So how do you, as a leader, get real and still lead?
It used to be difficult. It's not as difficult anymore because I readjusted the expectation, and I'm not afraid to fail anymore. I think part of it is being afraid to let all those people down and to live out their expectations. And I finally came to the conclusion that I have one life, and that's it. And I'm going to live it to the fullest, and I'm going to be who I was created to be without shame, without guilt, without trying to play twister. Because this person wants this, that person wants that, this person wants that, that person wants that.
It's exhausting.
And it is exhausting.
Right.
And so I finally came to the conclusion that I'm going to live this one life singularly with purpose and intentionality. I'm going to be the best I can with integrity with every person that I come in contact with. And I'm going to live my authentic life and take the pressure off.
Congratulations.
Woo!
Yes.
That sounds good. I'll raise my glass to that one.
This is not dress rehearsal, and I do believe in eternal life, but I only believe that we have this form in this life. This is it. So really it is one life in that respect. So yes, thank you for stepping up. And if you really got that, it's like, how can you be afraid of anything? How can you be afraid of anything? In fact, you should be afraid of not living.
Absolutely. Because if you fail, what are the consequences?
What are you going to do?
You wake up tomorrow morning and you start again.
Your key ends up in the gutter.
Every morning.
That's what happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, you are such a light. I can't believe. So tell us about your book. Tell us a little bit about what that.
So this one, Transform for Purpose, it's an odd title. My coach kept saying, don't you mean transform by purpose? And I said, no, I am being transformed for the purpose for which I was created. And so it's 30 chapters. The first one is about your mind, making sure that your mind and how you think and how you perceive, because you talked about that a little bit earlier in the intro, how you think will shape what you do. And so how do we get our minds uncluttered? My mom used to say this, maybe your parents did too. Have you lost your mind when you did something? And in my family, have you lost your cotton picking mind? And so when I was a kid, I was like, what does that mean? And what she meant was you're living outside of what is right mentally. And not that you're crazy, but you've lost your identity of who you are and you're acting outside of that identity. And so the first chapter deals with, let's make sure our mind and how we think, as a man thinketh, so is he or she. And so let's get our thoughts right first and foremost. Who we are, who we were created to be, who is the creator, however you perceive that to be, and live that authentically.
And then it's okay to be righteous, right?
It is. It is. Because for me, and my particular belief, we're created in his image and he is righteous. And I'm a portion of that.
Profound, I love it. What other themes do you most love about the book?
I love who told you that? That's one of the chapters. Who's speaking to you the negativity that shifts your everyday and causes you to believe that you're less than? Because you really are more. Not just more than just a wife, you're more than just a mom, you're more than just a TV host, you're more than just a friend, more than just a sister. And so let's arrest those voices of negativity and shut them down, right? And surround ourselves with people who believe not just in who we are, but believe in what we're called to do, right?
And in knowing your purpose and what you're called to do, what's next for you?
What's next for me? Oddly enough, doors have opened up. I love your last guest. I was just in India a few months ago, speaking engagements on leadership. A couple of years ago, I felt like I didn't have enough material as it relates to speaking on leadership and coaching. So I went back and got my doctorate in educational leadership. And doors have just been begun to open, speaking and teaching in different countries, which I am loving because I love people. And it's been pretty awesome to help women be empowered in countries where up till now, they've been second-class citizens.
So true. Well, this is your ministry.
Yes,
so thank you for preaching
Absolutely.
your righteousness. So tell people where they can find you, where they can find your books.
My books are on Amazon, both of them, More Than Just His Wife and Transformed for Purpose, and then www.andreahumphrey.com is my website, and if anybody wants to, I can be found at Hope Christian Ministries in Granada Hills.
All right,
every Sunday.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my
Stay
pleasure.
tuned. We'll
Thank
be
you,
back.
my friend.